Hi, I'm Shannon. Welcome into my channel, Mindful Crime Couture. If you haven't been to my channel or seen any of my videos before, please check out the description to learn a little bit more about me, my competencies, and qualifications. It's all there. I am definitely not saying that if you don't have any qualifications, you may not see this as plain as the nose on your face, because the idea of ego is something that a lot of us are familiar with. Now, when we talk in psychology about ego, there are a couple of differing definitions because people can be referring to the Freudian concept of ego, or like what we're going to be using today, exploring ego with Wendi. I think the overarching theme about her ego is that it's very fragile. That is why the cover photo of her in her mermaid-esque court dress with these bubbles all around her, because I imagine that these concepts and these things that she holds dear are as fragile as a soap bubble flying through the air that could be just tapped and popped at any time. To kick it off, the very first bubble that I want to talk about is that bubble of recognition, that she deserves recognition. Why does she deserve recognition? Because she is the best. She is the most virtuous and the most deserving. So let's take a look at the ways that we might see those themes repeat themselves in the next clips that I'm going to show you.
He's clipping into his car seat, and Ben out of nowhere says, "Mommy, I bet Abba knows a lot more about God than you do." And I said, well, different people have different beliefs about God. And so we get to the car, and Ben was like, "Is God a man or a woman?" I said, well, some people believe that he or she is an old white man with a long white beard. And Lincoln, who's 3.5, said, "God is dead."
And is Ben's your oldest then? And then who's your 3.5-year-old?
Lincoln.
Lincoln?
And I said, Lincoln, like, I was like, it's like Nietzsche in the back seat. Like, I was like, Lincoln, who's still in diapers, but is having a sophisticated conversation about God. And I just was laughing and laughing, and they were asking such interesting questions, and I was answering them with, like, different people think different things, and, but it was just...
And you saw him briefly at the same time you were seeing Jeff?
In the fall, yeah. I had actually never dated two people at once before, but I wasn't exclusive with either one.
Right. Is that Hebrew, the Ava?
Yeah.
Okay, that's father?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I know that, like, abuela for Spanish is grandmother.
That's true.
Right, Sarah?
It is.
Do you speak Spanish?
No, I probably should, but I don't.
I do.
Okay, so she really tailors her virtue to her audience. So she's talking to the victim advocate in that first clip, and she's talking about God and her children and how she speaks with her children, knowing that this woman is probably, a master's level in social work, and so she's a therapist, knows a lot about human development. Wendi wants to assure her about what a good mother she is, because she's having these wonderful conversations with her children where she invites them to think about what they want to think. Lots of people think many different things. And so she knows that that's a desirable thing for a therapist to be listening to judge you about your mothering skills. And so that's why she puts that piece in there. And then I think she does it again in that next clip where she's talking about how she never really dated two guys at once. Oops. There she wants to present herself as, very virtuous and very innocent, as well as this little aside that she has where she wants to speak about herself, even though we are here and we are talking in a room about the murder of her children's father right now. She has just been informed this, and she's saying these things, and this is something that she chooses to say about herself. She says, "Oh, do you speak Spanish?" Both of the parties in the room say they don't speak Spanish or indicate that they don't speak Spanish, and Wendi is she's going to put in there that oh, she does speak Spanish. So, just another thing that's so great about Wendi. She's so accomplished. She's also bilingual. Like, I don't know why at all that was information that needed to be shared at that time in any way, shape, or form. The next little tenet of this bubble where you're deserving of recognition because you're the best is that image is everything. How you are perceived is absolutely paramount to your existence. She really makes sure that her image is protected and that her image is the number one thing that she is thinking about at this point in time where she has gotten this terrible news.
And you can find him on FSU, right?
How long has he been back at FSU?
Since August.
And you all met through Jane?
Yeah. No, I just have pictures of my kids. Yeah. And this is from my dad's 70th birthday. That's my mom and dad and my boys and me.
Wow.
And they're super cute.
Very nice.
He's a young 70s. Yeah, the boys have blue eyes. Danny has blue eyes too.
It's always these little castaway comments, just like, so precious that, oh no, I don't have a picture of my boyfriend. I only have pictures of my children because, again, I'm a good mommy. And also just obsessed with my children. And look at them. Aren't they cute? So interesting that their cuteness is something that she's thinking about right now when she knows in not very long, she is going to have to completely dismantle their sky by telling them that their father is dead.
When you went to the liquor store, did you already know what you're going to get, or you had to?
Yeah, I had the name of, I don't know bourbon, but I was supposed to go to this party tonight. It's like a stock the bar party, and so I asked my friend what do they like, and she wrote down the name of the type of bourbon. So I went in the store to get Bulleit.
She is like, oh, drinking is so foreign to me. Because again, she's in a police station. She's in an interview. She wants to portray her image as the most virtuous type of person ever. And of course, a virtuous person, in her opinion, apparently, does not drink or imbibe in alcohol. And so Wendi would like everyone to know that she's not familiar with alcohol. And we see this as a continual theme.
You left there, when you left your residence, you said you were going to lunch. Did you go directly to lunch?
No, I stopped and made a purchase for a party that I was supposed to attend first.
And what was that purchase?
It was my first time purchasing bourbon. It was for not a bridal shower. It was for a bachelor. No, it was for a wedding party, but it was the bride and groom together, and they had asked for people to buy certain alcohol to help them.
Like a stock the bar party.
A stock the bar party. I forgot what it's called.
Okay. And do you remember what type of bourbon you purchased?
I don't.
Does Bullet bourbon sound familiar?
Maybe. It was.
All right.
They had a list of what they wanted, and so I asked the person at the store if they had whatever kind it was.
Okay. And do you recall where you went to purchase the alcohol? I
think I went on Thomasville Road at ABC Liquor.
Okay. Is there a reason you went to that particular store?
No, I don't know many liquor stores. That was the first one that popped up.
Although there seem to be quite a few pictures to the contrary where Wendi is holding a drink in her hand or, posting on social media about drinking. That is because image is everything, but honesty is optional. To bolster her self and her self-image, she wants to bring in the idea that, other people feel this way about her as well. We also hear, she has a lot of friends. And she contrasts herself with Dan by saying, people don't like Dan, or he rubs them the wrong way. He's brash, he's in an ivory tower, etc. So she's contrasting herself with that. And she wants us to believe that she is the opposite of those things. And here she tells us that she's so wonderful. Jeff may not even be able to live without her.
No, I haven't seen him more than as a friend since February, and like, if you don't trust me, we can't really do this. So, and then he was, really sad and apologetic and was like, oh my God, you're the best thing that's ever happened to me, and I'm going to lose you. And I never really thought I would be in a police station talking about my relationship.
I consume a lot of content about the Adelsons. And this little throwaway remark I had never seen. I wanted to highlight it and see if maybe you all hadn't caught it too the first time, because it is kind of a throwaway remark of Wendy's that she would have expounded on, but she gets interrupted. So let's watch this where she's alone with the social worker while Detective Isom is out of the room.
It's pretty much separate. I mean, it is part of the university, but it has its own academic deans and all those type of...
Did you go to FSU?
I did.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Did they do the one book, one campus thing when you were there? Did they pick a book? Did you go undergrad or master's? Or?
Both.
Yeah. Were you in social work?
I was. Mm-hmm. I graduated fall of, how long ago was that already? I think 2011.
So before Detective Isom comes in and interrupts the conversation, we hear Wendi ask if they had the One Book, One Campus program while she was at FSU. And the social worker is not able to reply because Detective Isom comes in. But you guys, she is there talking about how Dan has been murdered. And she wants to know if they had this program so that she can plug her book, so that she can talk about her accomplishments and how she should be recognized and how she deserves accolades, because her book was chosen as the One Book, One Campus. I got this book on eBay, and I got it from a seller themselves, and the seller themselves got it from Florida State. So I was very happy to give money to that seller because that did not put any money into Wendi Adelson's pocket.
That second bubble is the craving for attention. All attention at any cost.
Looked for this graphic specifically and used this character very purposefully because the evil queen looks in the mirror and says, who is the fairest of them all? She only expects one answer back, and it better be that it's her. And when that begins to shift, evil queen's life begins to shift as well, and she will do anything, including murder by the hand of another, to get herself back on the up and up. So if there is any sort of competition, Wendi better win it. And if there is any sort of smartest person in the room, it better be Wendi.
When I was little, I wanted to be a giraffe.
I don't know if you guys have watched yet, but I'm going to link below in the box, the description box. There is a fabulous creator that is making a series called Wendy's TV. Their creator name is Grisch. I believe I said that right. I don't know if it's Grisch. And it's a series of a lot of short videos about Wendi. Creator is the first person that I have ever heard use the term semantics tennis. And I found it to be spot on for Wendi. And then it's just like the chef's kiss that Wendi also was a very accomplished tennis player. And that we know that even Dan's tennis racket was something that Wendi, wanted to fight over. That was a point of contention in their divorce papers. So amazing term, semantics tennis is Wendi all over. So make sure you check out that series.
Do you know how old Amy is?
She's 50.
She's 50?
Yeah. She doesn't look 50. She's very beautiful. She is, not that you can't be beautiful at 50, but she looks really young. She's very pretty and accomplished. And
You know her date of birth?
I only know that she is 50. I don't, because I was looking her up one time, feeling.
Oh, okay.
So here she is. She's the fairest of them all, of course. She wants to point out that the new girlfriend is not actually an upgrade from her because she's older than her. I mean, she's pretty and she's so accomplished and she has a good life. Please take note that I am younger. Yeah, she's 50. So she takes a little moment there, or the social worker's in the room, and the detective who is investigating her is in the room. So then she, again, wants to show that virtue again. And so I'm so accepting, like she's the cool ex-wife. Like,
no rules in this house. I'm not like a regular mom. I'm a cool mom.
Oh yeah, I met her and she seemed perfectly lovely. She was sweet and she's beautiful, etc. She's very accomplished. She has a famous brother. She has this great life. So let me just show you how cool with this I am.
I'm so happy and not at all jealous.
I am so accepting.
One of the jurors was a little confused with the timing. You had said you had a boyfriend and that it was not clear to them whether you said it was a month after your separation and filing for divorce or a month after it was finalized.
Sure. So I started dating someone who was a friend of mine for many years, and it didn't become romantic until after I had filed for divorce. So about a month after I filed for divorce, someone who was a friend in my life became more like a boyfriend than a friend.
What they said they wanted. So.
Okay, so you didn't discuss what the clerk was this good, whether
No.
it's bad?
The only thing I said I discussed is I walked over and he was like, "Can I see your ID?" And I was like, "Oh, why are you laughing? I could be 18."
Okay.
I was like, and so I was like, "I love to be asked how old I am." I'm like, "I'm old as dirt. Here you go." And so I handed it to him and he's like, "You're not old."
Okay.
So anyway, we had like a little banter and he was like, "Your eyes are so blue." And I was like, "Thank you." And then I left.
Okay, so first of all, you may wonder why I chose that clip, because it was the juror question. And, it was like, when did you start dating? And oftentimes with people who are like Wendi, there is zero amount of gap between partners. And so I found it interesting that one of the jurors picked up on that and wanted to, suss out when she started dating Daniel Sack. And, because that was before Jeff. And was it before the divorce was even final? Yes, 1 month after she had filed for divorce. So she had filed for divorce. And then, 4 weeks later, while Dan is still reeling and probably, I think at that point in time, still trying to get her back, she's already dating somebody. Now, conveniently, they were friends before. And so, she can say that nothing untoward happened before that. We'll never know. But oftentimes with her personality type, that is something that we see. The second clip that I showed there, of course, I think this is like the consummate example of this. First of all, she is a little bit rebuffed by Detective Isom, who laughs at the fact that she could get carded at the liquor store. And so then the story, comes up about how her eyes are so blue and the liquor store employee in her, and she calls it banter. We had a little banter. And I think that's an interesting word that she chose, because that is something that we use when we're talking about, sexual attraction and flirting. We don't as often use banter in other forms. Now I want to focus on a specific type of attention that Wendi seems to crave, and that is sympathy. And she knows that the person that receives the sympathy in a situation is the victim.
Have Mr. Markell's parents not been allowed to see the grandchildren?
Well, they were allowed to see the grandchildren for 2 full years. And I used to cook meals for them and arrange play dates. We had sleepovers. And then I found out that, that Ruth Markell had reached out to a foster care agency to try to place my children with that agency. And I became very worried that they were trying to take my children away from me. And so after that time, I didn't feel a level of trust that they could spend time with the kids. I was afraid they were trying to take them from me.
Okay. Follow-up, Ms. Captain.
Your reference to the foster care agency, does that have to do with an email that was sent to me from your mother-in-law?
Yes, it does.
All right, that Dan's mother.
Yes.
And that email was in reference to, in the event that you and your parents were arrested in association with this crime, could I please contact that particular agency to assist with the children in the event they have no guardian temporarily until they could get down here from where they reside in Canada. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so they were not trying to take your children unless there was an event where you were unable to care for them.
But because there's no event in which I would be unable to care for them, that feels like trying to take away my children.
You keep using the word. I do not think it means what you think it means.
My stomach really hurts.
Do you need to eat?
No, I don't know that I'm going to eat for a long time.
Okay. Do you
Good
need
thing I
something?
had that
You got water?
last lunch. Danny, I defriended him from Facebook because I found it too upsetting to like see intermittent pictures of the kids. But I wonder, he's very, very public on Facebook about like where he is, when he's traveling, where he's going, and so I wonder if he's got pictures up of him and Amy, and if there's a jealous ex-husband in the...
This was on the 28th of June in Gainesville.
Yeah, so we drove back that Sunday morning, and I cried the whole way. We drove back to the house, and I told them, like, my parents don't believe that I can drive the boys down to South Florida by myself, so they like to drive up and help me drive down with them. So my folks were coming up that Sunday. So Jeff left, I had a couple of hours, my parents came up, and then Monday morning I went and picked up the kids, and that was the weekend that Amy was visiting, Danny's girlfriend. Okay. So that was my first time meeting Amy, so I went to our former house, and I was really, anxious to meet Amy and kind of sad about 6:20. Sad about the whole thing, and so my dad was like, well, I'll stand with you. So my dad stood next to me on the doorbell, and Amy was perfectly lovely, and I picked up the kids, and they seemed really happy, and got in the car and said goodbye.
That juror question, that's what the jurors were thinking when she testified in that very first trial. And as Wendi's lawyer and as her team, you know that is going to be a difficult hurdle to get over, because jurors are curious about why, if you weren't guilty, you also eliminated Dan's family from the children's lives, not just, right after their father was eliminated from their lives. So in that clip, she is telling us, she is convincing us that she was the victim. And what she was the victim of is her children being ripped away from her, being taken away from her. And Ruth Markel is the one who victimized her, according to her. She sent this email and she's trying to take her children away. So Wendi's the victim. Then we see, just a little play on the sympathy of Detective Isom in the interrogation room, where she says, oh my God, I don't think I'll ever be able to eat. Good Lord, the woman's going to starve to death. She might just die right there in front of the detective. Good thing I had that last lunch. Again, Wendi's weird attempt at some weird joke that goes over like a ton of bricks. And she is very clearly making Dan's death about how now she's not going to be even able to do her self-care. She's not even going to be able to do basic human things while this man is laying dying in a hospital. This is what she's concerned about. This is what she's thinking about. And the last clip I have, because she is saying in this clip that Danny is victimizing her by moving on. Danny was victimizing her by being with Amy, by posting photos of him and the kids being happy. She had to defriend him because him posting intermittent pictures of the children was too upsetting. You'll also notice that when Wendi wants you to give her sympathy, she uses distancing language that moves her closer to the incident. So you will notice in the podcast of her writing workshop, where she says that Dan pulled into our garage, and people kind of were like, wait a minute, it's not your garage. You didn't live there anymore. Again, in this part of the interview, she calls it her former house, going, by my former house. So she's putting herself closer. She's not saying Dan's place. It's our former house, bringing up again that relationship of the marriage and making sure that the distance within this is it's very close. It's happening to her right then. And so she uses that language, and she also plays on that she's a single mom now. Dan's able to go and jet set to New York. She can't do that because she has the children, and she had to have her poor dad walk her up to the stoop to, meet big bad Amy. So Dan victimized her. And then my last point goes back to the book itself. And I want to play this last clip of Wendi talking about the character of Lily.
Who was the central character in that book?
So there's 3 central characters. One was one of my clients, kind of a composite character from Eastern Europe. One was kind of a composite character of many clients I've represented from Latin America. And one was a public interest lawyer.
And was the public interest lawyer Lily?
Yes.
And is that the character that was sort of based after yourself?
No, really more based after a friend of mine.
And was Hiawassee, Florida, quote, just a small stop on the way back to what we had previously known as civilization? Is that a quote from your book?
That sounds like a quote from my book, yeah.
And who's the husband of Lily, the public interest lawyer?
You want his name in the book?
Yes.
I think it was Josh Stone.
All right, and what was Josh's employment?
Josh was an English professor.
I'm sorry, what was your answer?
Josh was an English professor.
A professor, where did he teach?
It's been a while. I wrote the book over 10 years ago. I don't remember what I named the university in the
North Florida State University?
That sounds right.
NFSU?
NFSU sounds right, yeah.
All right, and in the book, does Lily lament, quote, we moved to this godforsaken place for Josh's career?
Yes, that sounds like a line Lily would say.
All right.
So I haven't read Wendi's book yet, but I plan on it. Wendi chooses her character, Lily, who many believe, and Wendi herself has pretty much said in other interviews, that she, is in part based on her and has taken a lot from her life. Lily is clearly victimized in this story.
Okay, the wife has been very unhappy in the marriage and files her petition for dissolution of marriage in August 2012. The husband continues to characterize this as abandonment, and then it goes on to say that he had been disparaging you to some of the folks at the law school. Do you remember reading that?
I do.
Was that intended to be the place in this binder where you allege emotional abuse by your husband?
I mean, I think it's emotionally abusive to suggest somebody has mental health issues.
She's a victim of having to live in the town that she doesn't want to live in. She has to give up her dreams for her husband, who she really doesn't even really love. That marriage is not going well. And Josh, Lily's husband, is also somewhat emotionally abusive, which is something that she's, asserted to Detective Isom and asserted on the stand in many testimonies that Dan was to her. And Wendi can say that this book is not about her as much as she wants, but I think we don't have to look any further than the cover of this book. The cover of this book, people. Okay, this book with the enhanced blue eye, which rumor has it that Harvey is the one who photoshopped this eye to be bluer. So we know somebody that likes to enhance their eyes and talk about blue eyes all the time. And that is Wendi. Also, we have this. Wendi's looking through, fictional Lily. She's looking through, and has almost like what you can assume might be like a protective stance. She's hiding behind her hand, protecting her, because she's the victim.
The problem with having an ego that's this fragile, dangers everywhere. Proceed with caution, Wendi.
I just want to thank you so very much for coming in today and watching this video with me. I do plan on starting a series of reading Wendi's book and my reactions to each chapter. I know the other creators on here have done some readings of her book as well. I'm going to link them below too. There cannot be enough content for me to consume before Donna's trial. I really appreciate having so many excellent creators who are interested in this case and who are interested ultimately in justice for Dan Markel. So I just want to thank you again for being here today. If you could like the stream, if you could subscribe, that would be amazing. If you leave a comment, I will love it, and I will try to get back to you. Tell me what your theories are. Tell me what themes you see or what things I may have left out or something that I had wrong. I love learning, and I will correct myself if I'm wrong, so please let me know. And thank you again from the bottom of my heart. Have a great day.